This video will be a note-for-note analysis of the guitar and bass parts that appear in the choruses. A tab sheet of each part will briefly be displayed at the end of its respective analysis. A final demo of all parts combined will close out the video. The tuning used in this video and on the record is standard E and 440 wavelength calibration. The following Guitar 1 lead part is fairly simple, but still very important. It colors in the music and adds a melodic feel which really makes the song full and appealing to listen to. Guitar 1 will follow a 4-measure long pattern that will be played twice. In short, we're going to have 8 total measures. We'll begin by placing the first finger on the B and high E strings at the 5th fret. We're going to bar these 2 strings and leave that finger locked in this position for the first 3 measures. On 1, we're going to pick the B string down and let that note ring out as a quarter note. On 2, we're going to place the 3rd finger on the high E string at the 7th fret and pick these 2 strings downwards, let them ring out as another quarter note, which is tied to a 16th note on 3. On the E beat, which is the 16th note right after 3, we're going to pick these 2 strings upwards for another 16th note. On the AND beat, we'll pick these strings down. This will ring out as an 8th note. We'll finish up the first measure by playing 2 more 8th notes, counted 4 and picked down then up. So with the 4 count lead in, this is what the first measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, E and 4 and. And now we've reached the second measure. We're going to work off of the same double stop that we used to finish up the first measure. The first 3 notes are going to be counted 1 and 2, picked down, up, then down. This is 2 8th notes followed by a quarter note on 2. The quarter note on 2 is tied to an 8th note on 3. So on AND, the upbeat right after 3, we'll play this double stop again by picking it upwards for another 8th note. We'll finish up the second measure by playing these same 2 notes again, picked downwards on 4 for a quarter note. So with the 4 count lead in, this is what the second measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Okay, with the 4 count lead in, let's do both measures in sequence right from the start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, E and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And now we've reached the third measure. We're going to play that same double stop one more time. To start out the measure, we'll pick these down on 1 and let these 2 notes ring out as a quarter note. Remember, we're barring the B and high E strings at the 5th fret with that first finger. So for 2, we're going to lift up the 3rd finger and play this double stop, pick downwards. Okay, that's going to be another quarter note. We'll finish up the 3rd measure by playing 4 more 8th notes, counted 3 and 4 and, with alternate picking. And that's with the 3rd finger back on the high E string at the 7th fret. So with the 4 count lead in, this is what the 3rd measure sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and. And now we've reached the 4th measure. We're going to play 4 quarter notes to complete this measure. What we're going to do for the first one is that note where the first finger is on the B string. We're going to pick that down on 1 and quickly slide up a step and pitch to the 7th fret so it sounds like one note, just like this. 1. On 2, we're going to pick that same note again downwards and let it ring out as a quarter note. On 3, we'll pick that note again and quickly slide up a step and pitch to the 9th fret so it sounds like one note, just like this. 3. Then 4, we're going to take the middle finger and go to that B string at the 10th fret, pick that down, another quarter note. So with the 4 count lead in, this is what the 4th measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So with the 4 count lead in, let's play the 3rd and 4th measures in sequence one time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. With the 4-count lead in, let's run through the first 4 measures in sequence just one time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we've reached the 5th measure. The 5th measure is going to be exactly like the first measure, with one exception. In the last quarter of the measure, we're going to play a couple 16th notes instead of an 8th note. What we'll do on the and beat, we're going to break that up into 2 16th notes picked down and up, counted and up. So with the 4-count lead in, I'm just going to play the 5th measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and up. And now we have reached the 6th measure. The 6th measure will be exactly like the 2nd measure, with one exception. We're going to take the 8th note, the upbeat right after 1 in the 2nd measure, and divide it into 2 16th notes for the 6th measure. This will be picked down, down, up, counted 1 and up. Okay, with the 4-count lead in, what I'm going to do is I'll just play the 6th measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. With the 4-count lead in, let's play through the 5th and 6th measures in sequence just one time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and a 1 and a 2, 3 and 4. The 7th and 8th measures will be exact repeats of the 3rd and 4th measures. So now we're ready to do the entire passage. With the 4-count lead in, let's run through all 8 measures in sequence just one time. I won't count aloud as I play, I'll just give you the 4-count lead in. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first chorus appears at 37 seconds. The second will appear at 1 minute and 23 seconds. All 3 guitar parts will be active during these first 2 choruses. However, the guitar 1 lead part will be absent during the 3rd chorus that begins at exactly 2 minutes, right after the guitar solo. Since there is generally no more than 2 guitars in a typical cover band, guitar 1 could plug in the missing guitar 3 part and drive with the bass for that segment. The guitar 1 lead part will appear for the final time over the outro segment that begins at 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Guitar 2 is going to follow a 4-measure long pattern that gets played twice. In short, there's 8 total measures. We're going to begin by playing a standard E major chord. On 1, we're going to rake this chord by picking each string slowly, one at a time, with a downward picking motion. Okay, we're actually picking up in pitch as we do this. Just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that chord is going to ring out as a whole note for that entire first measure. On the second measure, we're going to play an F-sharp major chord. We're going to bar it. We're going to place the first finger on the low E string at the 2nd fret. That's F-sharp, your root note. The 3rd finger goes to the A string at the 4th fret. The pinky goes to the D string at the 4th fret. The middle finger goes to the G string at the 3rd fret. And the first finger is barring the B and high E strings on the 2nd fret. We're going to repeat that process. We're going to rake this chord and let it ring out as a whole note for the entire 2nd measure. On the 3rd measure, we're going to play an open A5 power chord by barring the D and G strings at the 2nd fret we're just going to pick that down. And we're going to close up the pattern by playing a B sus2 / F sharp chord. What that is, we're going to take the first finger and bar all 6 strings at the 2nd fret. We'll take the 3rd finger and go to the D string at the 4th fret and the pinky to the G string at the 4th fret. Okay, actually 4 notes are being played by that first finger. You have the E, A, then the B and high E string. Okay, the B is actually the root note, and that's where the first finger is on the A string at the 2nd fret, but F sharp is the lowest. Okay, and that's why it's / F sharp in the name. B sus2 / F sharp. We're going to repeat that process by raking this as a whole note and letting it ring out for the entire 4th measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a 4-count lead in and play all 4 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What we have here is actually 8 measures. We're going to play these 4 measures twice in sequence as indicated by the repeat sign at the beginning of the 1st measure and at the end of the 4th measure highlighted in yellow. Also notice the squiggly line right in front of the chord on the 1st, 2nd, and 4th measures. That means to rake that chord slowly. What you're going to do with your right hand is slowly pick downwards 1 string at a time. You're actually picking up in pitch, is why the arrow is pointing upwards. Guitar 3 is going to follow the exact same 4-measure pattern as Guitar 2, but we're going to work off of root 5 power chords instead of full chords. Okay, and this part actually drives with the bass guitar and almost goes unnoticed in the mix. We're going to start out with the open E5 power chord, and that's with the first finger barring the A and D strings at the 2nd fret, and of course we're playing the open E string with it. The first 2 notes are going to be quarter notes picked down on 1 and 2. On 3, we're going to pick down again for an 8th note, followed by another 8th note on the end beat after 3 picked up. And this will be tied to an 8th note on 4. In short, the time value is actually a quarter note. And on the last beat of the measure, the last and beat, we're going to pick up. Okay, and I'm going to leave 4 silent in the count just because it's easier that way. So with the 4-count lead in, this is what the first measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, the next 2 measures are going to follow that exact same count and picking pattern. The 2nd measure, we're going to play the F sharp 5 power chord. On the 3rd measure, we're going to go to the open A5 power chord. The 4th measure is what we really need to look at now. We're going to almost play the same chord that we did on Guitar 2. We're just going to leave off the higher pitched 2 strings. We're going to take that first finger and bar the E and A strings at the 2nd fret and place our 3rd finger back on the D string at the 4th fret and our pinky on the G string at the 4th fret. We're going to play this on all the downbeats, counted 1, 2, 3, and 4. Notice the downward picking motion. These are all quarter notes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to play all 8 measures in sequence on Guitar 3 with a 4-count lead in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Since it's unlikely that there will be 3 guitar players in a typical cover band, this part is probably needed the least since it drives with the bass anyway and is almost lost in the mix. what we have here is actually 8 measures. We're just going to play these 4 measures twice in sequence, as indicated by the repeat sign at the beginning of the first measure and at the end of the 4th measure. The bass guitar is pretty much going to double guitar 3, literally note for note, for the first 3 measures of the 4 measure long pattern. The only real difference is we're playing the root note while the guitar is playing power chords. Otherwise, we're going to pick and count time exactly the same way. The only real difference is on the 3 beats, we're going to play that note staccato, which means choppy or abrupt, instead of legato, which is smooth. When you're looking at the tab sheet, you'll notice a dot below those notes. That's what that means. We're going to skip ahead to the 4th measure. That's the B note, located on the A string at the 2nd fret using your first finger. The first 2 notes are going to be quarter notes, picked downwards on 1 and 2. On the 3 beat, we're going to play 4/16 notes, counted 3 and a. What we're doing there is we're filling with the bass drum and the snare. Okay, the first 3 are going to be picked down, up, down, and the last one, the beat, we're going to pull off to the open A string. On 4, we'll go back to that B note, pick it down, let it ring out as a quarter note to finish up that measure. With the 4 count lead in, this is what the 4th measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and a 4. It's kind of hard to count that fast, out loud anyways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first 4 measures in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we have reached the 5th measure. The 5th measure is going to be an exact repeat of the 1st measure. So we're going to skip ahead to the 6th measure. We're going to start out working off the F sharp note where the first finger is on the low E string at the 2nd fret. On 1, we're going to pick this downwards, let it ring out as a quarter note. On 2, we'll pick this note downwards again. This time it rings out as an 8th note. On the and beat right after that, we're going to pick the open E string upwards for another 8th note. On 3, we're going to start a fill by placing the first finger on the A string at the 2nd fret. We're picking that down. It's a 16th note. On E, which is the 16th right after that, we're going to hammer on with that 3rd finger to the same string at the 4th fret. Another 16th note. And on the and beat, we're going to go with the first finger to the D string at the 2nd fret. Pick this up. It's an 8th note. This is what the measure sounds like so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and... Okay, we're going to finish up the measure with 4/16 notes, counted 4 and a. On 4, we're going to place that 3rd finger on the D string at the 4th fret, pick down. On E, we're going to pull off to the first finger on that same string at the 2nd fret. On the and beat, we're going to go with the 3rd finger to the A string at the 4th fret. That's picked down. And on the beat, the final 16th note, we're going to pull off to the first finger on that same string at the 2nd fret. The last 4 notes are going to sound like this. 4 and a. So with the 4 count lead in, let's just run through measures 5 and 6 in sequence one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4 and a. Now we've reached the 7th measure. The 7th measure will be an exact repeat of the 3rd measure, so we're going to skip ahead to the 8th measure. We're going to work off of the B note where the first finger is on the A string at the 2nd fret. The first 3 notes are going to have the exact same timing in the picking pattern as the first 3 notes on the 6th measure, just like this. 1, 2, and... We're just doing it on a different string. The 3rd quarter, we're going to do the exact same notes in the exact same fill on the same string, just like this. 3 and Okay, now what we need to cover is the last quarter of this measure. On 4, we're going to place that third finger on the A string at the 4th fret and pick this down. It's a 16th note. On the E beat after that, another 16th note, we're going to go with the first finger to the D string at the 2nd fret, pick that up. On the AND beat, we're going to hammer on with the third finger to the same string at the 4th fret. So these last 3 notes are counted 4 yen, just like this, 4 yen. So with the 4 count lead in, let's just do measure 7 and 8 one time in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4 yen. Let's run through all 8 measures in sequence just one time. I won't count aloud as I play, I'll just give you the 4 count lead in. 1, 2, 3, 4. What we have here is all 8 measures in sequence of the first 2 choruses. We're just going to ignore the 9th measure at the end of the page, which appears empty. The third chorus begins at exactly 2 minutes. The first 7 measures are going to be exactly the same as the first 2 choruses. The 8th measure is what's going to be different. At exactly 2 minutes and 18 seconds, we're going to fill for the last half of that last measure. So instead of doing the whole chorus, all I'm going to do here is look at that last measure. Okay, we're working off of the B note, and that's where the first finger is on the A string at the 2nd fret. What we're going to do here is play a quarter note followed by 2 8th notes, pick down, down, up, just like this, 1, 2, and the fill is going to be 16th notes. Okay, the first 4 16th notes are with the third finger on the D string at the 4th fret. Okay, counted 3 and a pick down, up, just like this, 3 and a. And then the next 4 are with the first finger on that same string at the 2nd fret. Count 4 and a pick down, up, 4 and a. And this fill actually signals the outro of the song. So what I'm going to do is I'll just give you a 4 count lead in and do this one measure. You should be able to plug it in on your own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3 and a, 4 and a. The 8th measure will be the only thing that's different than the previous 2 choruses. At 2 minutes and 18 seconds, that fill on the 8th measure is going to signal the outro of the song. Otherwise, the other 7 measures are exactly like the previous 2 choruses.